Okay, so this clip was sent to me back in 2015 by a guy named Matt D, who had apparently sent this clip around to some other people, including Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who took a look at this and said, well, that could be anything, could be anyone.
Every year, hundreds of people are reported missing in national parks and forests, many of them children. The mystery has one man wondering if there's a common denominator behind the disappearances that have search and rescue crews continuing to scratch their heads.
Every national forest has history, but some have patterns. Patterns of sightings, patterns of disappearances, patterns of creatures slipping between trees like shadows with intent. Tonight, we break down a series of encounters so connected, so consistent, and so unnerving. They might be the strongest evidence yet that we're not alone in the wilderness. Today, we're looking at a cluster of sightings that don't just overlap in location, they overlap in behavior, strength, and timing. And the first one takes us to Alberta, Canada, where a drilling crew captured something they still can't explain.
Okay, so this clip was sent to me back in 2015 by a guy named Matt D, who had apparently sent this clip around to some other people, including Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who took a look at this and said, well, that could be anything, could be anyone, and he's right. But what interests me is what Mr. Anything out there is doing, which is watch him launch that tree.
The footage begins with a dark shape at the tree line. At first, it's motionless, almost blending into the shadows. The crew thinks it's just another stump until the shape shifts. Then, without warning, it grabs a fallen tree and hurls it across the clearing. Not roll it, not drag it, throws it.
I don't see it. What are we looking at?
There's a creature I don't know, thrown over the bit.
Oh, yeah, okay, now I see something. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of coming over the...
Yeah. Just through the tree.
With a single motion, like it weighs nothing. And anyone who's ever stood near a drilling operation knows the environment.
We need to get a good guesstimate on how long that tree is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take our mad tosser here and use him as a unit of measure. That is his torso there, we can see. So now I'm going to take his torso and drop it in 4 times. And let me get my tree lined up. There we go.
Loud, oily, vibrating the ground non-stop. If anything was living in that forest before the rig arrived, the constant noise alone would drive it to a breaking point. Maybe this wasn't a display of strength. Maybe it was a warning. But here's where the footage becomes more than just a clip. Ask yourself, how far can you throw 50 pounds with one arm, standing still? Most people couldn't move it more than a few feet. This thing sends it flying like dry kindling. And that single act connects to other reports we'll examine next. Meet Verton, a veteran employee from the Department of Transportation. His job is simple on paper. Monitor the network of webcams installed across Washington to give people a real-time look at weather and road conditions before they even open their doors. But in winter, especially in eastern Washington, things get interesting. Sherman Pass sits more than 5,500 meters, over 11,000 feet, in pure isolation. Snow, wind, silence, and a camera quietly watching it all. One day, Verton was reviewing the feed when something stopped him cold. On the Sherman Pass webcam, right beneath a towering tree, was a shape. Broad, heavy, out of place. It reminded me of a large foot, he said. And the still image wasn't the only thing raising questions.
Looking at the Department of Transportation, we use all sorts of different webcams across the state to promote conditions so people can see what's going on out there before they head out the door. And in the middle of winter, we get a lot of snow here in eastern Washington. Sherman Pass is roughly 5,500 feet in elevation in the middle of nowhere.
Months earlier, another team in the South Central region had captured something on a different camera overlooking Interstate 90, one of Washington's busiest corridors. The camera switches to infrared at night, giving the footage a ghostly black and white look. And on one of those nights, something on two legs crossed the overhang. Slow, upright, purposeful.
So I just happened to kind of be looking through some of the webcams and noticed this image on our Sherman Pass webcam. And it was like, wow, look at that. There's something beneath the tree there that kind of reminds me of Bigfoot.
When these clips were posted online, the reaction split instantly. Some called it a hiker with a backpack. Others were convinced they were seeing Sasquatch himself. Whatcom County is, after all, considered a Bigfoot sanctuary, and the DOT was flooded with calls from casual viewers, believers, even college professors, begging them to stop posting the images for fear that hunters or opportunists would track the creature down. Verton was asked a simple question: have you ever seen someone walking around Sherman Pass? His answer was immediate: never.
Ryan, let me ask you, do you ever come across footage of humans walking around in that area?
I have never come across any footage of somebody walking through that area on Sherman Pass.
The terrain alone makes that unlikely. So how does this tie back to Alberta? Elevation, harsh winters, migration patterns. When the cold pushes deep, animals, whatever they are, move to warmer elevations. It's possible the Alberta sighting and the eastern Washington images show the same creature on the move, traveling south across the border.
So the video was taken by my counterparts in our South Central region, and it was actually from several months prior. They recently completed a nature overcrossing across one of the busiest interstates in Washington, Interstate 90, and it has a camera up there, and late in the evenings, when it starts to get dark, it turns to infrared, so it goes more black and white.
And the next piece of footage, captured from a different angle at the same site, only deepens the mystery. Watch closely how the figure moves. Upright, steady, balanced. Not human, not casual. Something else is walking out there. Be safe. The next encounter takes us to Michigan, where one of the most debated Sasquatch videos resurfaced in 2018 on the YouTube channel NVTV, titled "Brave Hiker Gets Very Close to Real Sasquatch in Michigan." At first glance, it looks like a simple trail video, a hiker recording his walk. But within seconds, everything changes.
It's crazy.
NVTV zoomed in, slowed the footage, and highlighted what appears to be a massive figure watching the hiker from across a small forest clearing. But there was always one question: how does something that big disappear at such close range? That question led an investigator to re-examine the video from scratch. Stabilization, deeper zoom, frame-by-frame breakdown, and what they discovered suggests the hiker never actually saw what was happening right in front of him.
It's crazy.
In the raw, stabilized footage, the Sasquatch first pauses beside a tree, using the thick foliage as partial cover. You can clearly see it leaning slightly, observing the hiker, not panicked, not startled, but measuring the situation. Then, almost deliberately, it steps out into the open and crosses the glade.
It's crazy.
The height, the heavy frame, the stability in the stride, all far beyond what a typical man-in-a-suit hoax usually exposes. The center of gravity is low, the shoulder width is wide, the movements are controlled and powerful. But then comes the moment everyone talks about, the sudden vanishing. The hiker stares, confused, even backtracks a few steps, unsure if his eyes failed him. But the Sasquatch didn't disappear. In the stabilized slow motion, you can see it drop down, bend sharply forward, and move out of sight in a fast, low motion, almost certainly on all fours. This is where the creature's mid-tarsal break becomes crucial. That unique foot structure allows a Sasquatch to run quadrupedally with speed and fluidity impossible for humans. The hiker captured a brief encounter. The enhanced footage captured the truth. It was closer, smarter, and faster than he ever realized. The next sighting comes from a deeply personal encounter shared with the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, a case known today as the Grays River Bigfoot at Murphy Creek, a story that has stayed with one family for more than 20 years.
Grays River Bigfoot at Murphy Creek terrifies woman near campsite. Mike G. writes RMSO, "Hello, I'm a true believer."
Mike G. wrote to RMSO with a message that was short but heavy. "I'm a true believer. This encounter happened to my sister one summer. They were camping high in the Wind River Mountains of Alpine, Wyoming, more than 40 miles from the nearest town. No traffic, no hikers, just a small stream cutting through dense wilderness."
This encounter actually happened to my sister one summer. We were up camping high in the Wind River Mountains in Alpine, Wyoming. We were camped 40 miles away from the nearest town by a small stream.
That night, the weather collapsed. Thunder shook the valley. Lightning cracked through the trees. Rain hammered the tents in a relentless downpour. Fearing a flash flood from the nearby creek, the family decided to pack up and move camp. Mike's sister stepped outside to change clothes in the tent beside the trailer. The rest of the family stayed inside, talking, until they heard a scream so sharp and terrified, it froze everyone in place. She burst into the trailer moments later, crying so hard she could barely speak.
Everyone was worried about a possible flash flood from the small creek that ran next to us. In the middle of the night, we decided to pack up and move. My sister went outside to change her clothes in the tent next to the trailer house. We were all in the trailer talking when suddenly we heard a loud, terrifying woman screaming. It was my sister. She ran into the trailer, crying and sobbing uncontrollably.
When lightning struck overhead, she said, the flash lit up the entire forest. And in that split second, standing only 20 to 30 feet away, was a tall, hairy man watching her from the trees. The moment she screamed, the figure bolted, charging straight up a steep mountainside, through thick brush no human could run through. The next morning they checked the area. No clean tracks, no footprints in the mud, but broken branches, snapped limbs, and a clear path torn uphill.
She was making her way to the tent when lightning flashed. A bright bolt of lightning lit up the sky and everything around. In that light, she saw a tall, hairy man standing in the trees watching her. When she screamed, it took off running straight up the hill and was gone. The next morning, we all went over to investigate. We didn't find any tracks or any real evidence, but there was broken branches and trees.
RMSO asked, could she estimate its size? Mike answered honestly. She was too terrified to analyze details, but she knew what she saw. A massive, hair-covered figure, upright, fast, powerful. To this day, she swears it was Sasquatch. And Mike ends his letter with a quiet ache. Those were the best days of my life, and I miss them. On October 20th, 2024, deep inside the Rocky Boy Indian Reservation of Montana, a quiet Sunday night turned into something no one in that truck will ever forget. The footage, later confirmed by Matt Moneymaker and logged on the BFRO site, was captured at an informal picnic area littered with beer bottles and trash. But what stands in the recording isn't debris. It's a towering, dark figure positioned between the trees, nearly motionless, until you zoom in. On a large screen, it becomes unmistakable. A massive, black-furred animal standing upright, watching.
It's not like this is hard floor. Really soft, bunch of pine cones. You didn't hear a thing move.
The witness, Lacey the boy, had never believed in Bigfoot, not once. A Native American raised on traditional stories and an Army veteran who served in Afghanistan, he'd seen enough in life to dismiss myths. But that night, with his brother, his brother's wife, and his girlfriend beside him, all of that changed. Lacey describes the creature as huge, 8, maybe 9 feet tall, built like something between a gorilla and a man, with clean combed hair covering a muscular frame. The definition was shocking: a carved six-pack, a broad chest, arms thick enough to snap a tree with one swing. And strangely, there was no smell, none of the foul odor often reported in other encounters.
Look, it's big and black. That looks like a gorilla.
Got chills. I know he'd be back.
The creature stepped out from behind a tree and looked directly at Lacey and his brother. No rush, no threat. It simply placed something in its mouth, maybe food, then turned and walked away as casually as a man leaving a campfire. But the night wasn't done. Back at the truck, chaos erupted. While Lacey's brother filmed from the window rail, both Lacey and his brother's wife saw something else. Something brown, crawling toward them through the darkness. Close enough to grab, close enough to pull someone right out of the truck. She screamed. Lacey yelled for her to go. Tires spit gravel as they sped out of the mountain, leaving whatever that thing was behind. Only when they were miles away did the weight of it hit them. 4 adults, all witnesses. A creature seen clearly with their own eyes. And a video, raw, unedited, untouched, showing a tall, black-furred figure standing among the trees, exactly where they said it stood. Lacey hasn't stopped thinking about it since. The size, the silence, the impossibility of it. He went into that night a non-believer. He came out with a story and a video that changed everything. Meet Eric K. Swanson, the filmmaker behind Eric K. Swanson Documentaries, a channel dedicated to uncovering real encounters with the unknown. Thousands of people have reported seeing something in the woods that defies explanation. Some describe a passing glimpse, others describe terror. And then there are encounters like the one James experienced at just 17 years old. James and a group of friends were camping deep inside Florida's Ocala National Forest when everything changed. They were sitting around the fire, laughing, talking, just a normal night, until something moved just beyond the reach of the firelight. James thought it was a person at first, until it began circling their camp.
James was camping with some friends in Florida's Ocala National Forest when something truly unexpected happened.
We were out there camping, having a good time. Fire and talking. And all of a sudden, I looked out and I seen somebody or something. I couldn't make out really what it was, just outside of firelight. And then it started circling our camp. I kept seeing it in different places as it went around us. And it went around probably 2 times. And then it stopped by this one tree.
He watched it drift between the trees, always staying just outside the flame glow, towering beside a trunk, silent, massive, 7 feet tall, broad as a doorframe, the kind of size that instantly resets your instincts. James said it best: if you're not the alpha male out there, you're dinner.
Just standing there looking at us. And it was big. I say he was at least 7 foot tall, and he was probably that wide. I mean, he was big. When I seen him, that's the one thing that bothered me the most. You know, like I say, if you're not the alpha male out there, you're dinner. And I was afraid that I'd be dinner if that guy come in here after me, because he was big enough that he could whoop me. I know he was.
Then the figure stepped toward him. Shotgun raised, voice shaking, he warned it to stop. It didn't. One more step. Blam! James fired a magnum slug straight into the creature's abdomen. It folded, dropped behind a large tree, and vanished. The boys spent the rest of the night with their backs pressed together, guns pointed outward, waiting for whatever they had shot to come back. But dawn came, and the woods stayed quiet.
So this thing started coming toward me. I had my shotgun up and I pointed and I said, "Stop right now or I'm shooting." I mean, I was starting to really get excited, I hate to say I was getting a little frightened. And this thing just took another step. And when he did, pow, pulled the trigger. And it's a Magnum slug. It hit him in the gut. He doubled over, sat down, and rolled over behind the tree.
A game warden later returned with them to investigate. No blood, no tracks, no drag marks, no torn bark, nothing. The warden's final words were chilling. "I'll let you go, but don't talk to anyone about this. It didn't happen." But James never forgot, and in the years since, he says he's seen them again. Learn more about their behavior, their habits, their intelligence. Those stories, however, are still waiting in the dark. Let's move forward because from this point on, the story only gets darker. We've seen Sasquatch sightings across multiple regions: Alberta, British Columbia, Oregon, Washington, each case separate yet strangely connected. But nothing ties these threads together more chillingly than the missing 411 phenomenon, a pattern of disappearances scattered across North America's national parks. Every year, hundreds of people vanish inside forests and wilderness areas. Most are eventually found, but a small percentage simply aren't. No tracks, no scent trail, no remains, no logical explanation, just gone. Many of these disappearances happen in Oregon, Washington, and Northern California, places where Bigfoot sightings are already off the charts. Search and rescue crews often admit the same thing off camera. It's like the forest just swallowed them. And that's where the missing 411 theory becomes impossible to ignore.
Every year, hundreds of people are reported missing in national parks and forests, many of them children. And most are eventually found, whether dead or alive. But a small percentage of the cases, some right here in Oregon, are never solved. The mystery those cases present has one man wondering if there's a common denominator behind the disappearances that have search and rescue crews continuing to scratch their heads.
We turned around and here was this little toddler walking out of the fog with absolutely no clothes on.
The term itself comes from investigator David Paulides, a former police officer who spent years analyzing disappearances inside national parks. He kept finding the same patterns: sudden vanishings, proximity to water, clusters of cases, and no physical evidence whatsoever. Even search dogs, who can track a scent across rivers, often can't pick up anything at all.
These were unusual things that don't make sense, that happen to cluster together in 3 to 4, sometimes as many as 20, 30 people missing at one moment.
Then there's the weather. In many cases, storms roll in minutes after someone disappears, as if the environment itself is erasing evidence. But the most disturbing detail: the National Park Service doesn't keep an official public database of missing people. Paulides has openly questioned why, and suggests that at the federal level, something is being hidden. And if you look at the history, the pattern goes back over 100 years. One of the most notorious hotspots is the South Nahanni River Valley in Canada, known as the Valley of the Headless Men. For generations, the Dene people warned outsiders about a large territorial being called the Nukluk, a creature almost identical to what we now call Bigfoot. The disappearances in this valley started appearing in Western records in the early 1900s. Prospectors, trappers, hunters, people who knew the wilderness better than anyone. Some vanished without a trace. Others were found under circumstances that simply didn't make sense. More than 40 people have disappeared in that valley in the last century. And for many locals, the explanation has always been the same. Something lives there. Something that doesn't want humans in its territory.
On this channel, we have documented several cases that show evidence of Sasquatch exhibiting violent and threatening behavior, with many cases of missing persons and hotspots of Bigfoot activity, dating back to the 1870s. Let us take a look at some of the historic and recent cases of missing persons that are often linked to Bigfoot. One hotspot of Bigfoot activity that is prominently associated with cases of missing people for over 100 years is the South Nahanni River Valley, also known as the Valley of the Headless Man.
Another chilling account comes from 1924, the alleged abduction of Canadian prospector Albert Ostman. According to his testimony, he was carried off while asleep in his sleeping bag, hauled for hours across mountains, and dropped into a small, secluded basin. Surrounded by a family of massive, hair-covered beings, he claimed he was held there for nearly a week before escaping.
Is the story of Albert Ostman. In summer of 1924, Ostman, a Canadian prospector, traveled the area near Toba Inlet, around 40 miles away from Harrison Lake in British Columbia. As the story goes, one evening, as Ostman lay asleep, a Sasquatch purportedly picked him up and carried him off while he was in his sleeping bag. Ostman was carried in his sleeping bag across the forests and mountains for about 3 or 4 hours by the Sasquatch before being dropped.
People debated his story for decades, but what made it unsettling was the consistency. His description of their behavior, their physical proportions, their gestures, it all lined up perfectly with hundreds of modern sightings from witnesses who'd never heard of Ostman at all.
I was out on a prospecting trip. I was in, I think it was about 6 or 7 days. Then I was camping at the place there. And they began to bother me at night there. I thought first there would be porcupines or probably bear or something, but evidently it was something else. And that went on for about 3-4 nights.
Then comes one of the most disturbing missing 411 child cases, 2-year-old Keith Parkins, who vanished in Oregon in 1952. After a frantic all-night search in freezing temperatures, he was found 12 miles away, lying face down in the snow, clothes torn, covered in scratches, but alive. A 2-year-old cannot travel 12 miles through brush, fences, cattle fields, and frozen terrain overnight. Search dogs couldn't track him. His footprints appeared and disappeared. It looked as if he had been carried.
A 2-year-old boy from Oregon, named Keith Parkins, vanished near the Umatilla National Forest and was found 19 hours after his disappearance, 12 miles away from where he vanished, in the rural wasteland. The journey in question would have required the toddler to cross 2 mountain ranges, fences, creeks, and rivers. On April 10, 1952, 2-year-old Keith Parkins was playing with his older brothers on a cattle ranch in Ritter, Oregon. Keith was playing outside with his older brothers near a barn when he suddenly vanished. A frantic search began when his mother realized Keith hadn't returned for lunch with his brothers. To their shock, Keith had vanished without a trace. The conditions were cold, with snow patches still on the ground.
And when you overlay these cases on a map, something becomes undeniable. Most missing, 411 disappearances, occur in areas with a long, documented history of Bigfoot sightings. Many are near cave systems, abandoned mines, and deep wilderness corridors, places humans rarely go, but something else might. So the question becomes unavoidable. Are national parks simply dangerous wilderness, or are they territory, controlled by something large, intelligent, and mostly unseen? The idea of Bigfoot involvement is controversial, even ridiculed by some. But when experienced outdoorsmen vanish without tracks, when storms conveniently wipe away evidence, when children appear miles away in patterns they physically cannot achieve, you can't blame people for looking beyond conventional explanations. Maybe something old is living out there, something territorial, something that understands the land better than we ever could. And if the missing 411 cases are connected to Bigfoot sightings, then national parks might not just be vacation spots, they might be hunting grounds. What do you think? Are these disappearances natural accidents? Or is there a pattern the government doesn't want the public to see? Meet Alexander Petakov and Eli Watson, the filmmakers behind the YouTube channel Small Town Monsters, a team known for chasing America's most elusive mysteries. And today they set their sights on Colorado. Colorado is where the endless Great Plains collide with the towering spine of the Rocky Mountains, a state built on contrasts. With 5.7 million people spread across its vast terrain, much of its population clusters along the Front Range, from Denver down to Colorado Springs, following the dramatic rise of the mountains from the plains. The Rockies here are part of a massive chain stretching from New Mexico all the way into Alberta and British Columbia, Canada. And while Colorado is famous for skiing, hunting, hiking, and nearly every outdoor adventure you can imagine, in recent years it's become known for something else: Sasquatch activity. And the people paying attention say there's a reason for that.
It's funny because everyone seems to think that Sasquatch lives in Oregon, Washington, and Northern California. And they do. But Colorado's ideal. I mean, if you look at this habitat, I mean, it's thickly wooded. There's places that are named after something. They're in Lost Creek Wilderness, there's Monkey Creek, and it's been Monkey Creek forever as far as I know. There's Devil's Peak, Devil's Mountain. These all got their names from something. And my guess is people, before they knew what Sasquatch was, they would call them hairy men, wild men, and devils or forest devils. And I think some of those names, even Monkey Creek, the only thing that anyone could.
Cryptozoology author Legia Fisher explains it best.
So in Colorado, we have the beautiful Rocky Mountains here, and even though there are a lot of hiking trails and biking trails, there is still a lot of unexplored wilderness for sure. And there's very dense trees, brush, caves, rock outcroppings, hiding places. So in terms of Bigfoot living here, we have great mountainous areas for him to hide in. And as well, it's pretty temperate here, so it doesn't get too cold in winter or too hot in summer.
Colorado's wilderness may look accessible from the trail, but step just 20 feet off the beaten path, and the world changes. Dense trees, thick brush, rocky outcroppings, cave systems, natural hideouts everywhere. It's temperate, she says. Not too cold in winter, not too hot in summer. If Bigfoot lives anywhere, this terrain gives him every advantage. Colorado Sasquatch researcher Jason Frank adds another layer. Unlike the coastal states, everything here is about altitude. Creatures follow food, water, and shelter, and the Rockies provide all three. But when winter pushes wildlife down into the valleys, something else happens. They end up closer to us. Dumpsters, livestock, pets, all attract attention. And over the years, so many people have reported encounters that a pattern has become impossible to ignore. Jason says the hardest part for witnesses isn't believing what they saw, it's feeling alone afterwards. But he stresses one thing, again and again: you're not alone, not here.
With Colorado, unlike, especially on the West Coast and even the East Coast, here it's all altitude. So they go up in the mountains. It's hard for people that are in their human states to understand. So many witnesses, so many people that have seen this, have done this, they know what I'm talking about. And it's devastating to look around and be like, I'm the only people seeing this? You know, I'm all by myself? And you're not.
November 26, 2025, Neskowin, Oregon. Backwoods, Bigfoot returns to the Pacific Northwest, but today's expedition comes with a weight most of his trips don't carry. These aren't just any woods. These are the same towering, rain-drenched forests where a young French cyclist named Alain Malessard was murdered in 1987, a case known today as Old Growth, a mystery still unsolved after nearly 4 decades.
Sometimes hidden dangers becomes disturbingly clear. This is the true story of the Oregon campground in the calm wilderness of the Siskiyou Mountains, nestled deep within Oregon's lush forests.
He reminds his viewers who Malessard was, a cheerful, adventure-driven young man who had saved for years to bike across Canada and the United States. He had already ridden thousands of miles before Thanksgiving weekend brought him into Oregon. But at the Neskowin Creek campground, closed for the season and isolated beneath the massive coastal evergreens, Malessard's journey ended with a single devastating strike to the back of the head. No motive, no robbery, his belongings untouched. And decades of investigations, from state police to filmmaker Tom Olson Jr.'s 10-year deep dive, have only led to more questions. Evidence mishandled, crime scene tampered with, suspects raised and dismissed. The forest still holds its secrets, and Malisard's was never found. Backwoods Bigfoot steps deeper into the same wilderness, rain pattering off the thick canopy. The air is heavy, cold, and unnervingly still. Squatchy, he calls it, that familiar combination of density, silence, and the feeling that something is watching. Old-growth forest has a personality. These trees are ancient, wide, gnarled, and impossible to see through. Fallen timber litters the forest floor. Heavy branches snapped high above, leaning trees arranged in ways that look deliberate or impossible to explain. And then he stops. A footprint. Massive. Fresh enough to hold shape despite the rain. He places his own boot beside it, and the difference is startling. This isn't a hiker, not a bear. The stride depth alone suggests weight far beyond anything that should be walking upright out here.
Maybe. Something's coming through here. It's beautiful.
He follows the impressions until the trail abruptly vanishes into brush too thick for a grown man to move through silently. But something large did. Recently. The deeper he hikes, the more the forest shifts from beautiful to unsettling. There's a reason locals whisper about this place. Dogman sightings, shadow figures, strange screams, and of course, Bigfoot. Creatures people claim to see only once, briefly, before they disappear into the old growth like ghosts slipping behind a curtain. For backwoods Bigfoot, the combination is chilling, an unsolved, a forest that hides things too well, and fresh evidence that something huge still walks these woods, unseen but never far.
I just heard a twig break, branch break. Gotta love these old growth forests, man. Gorgeous.
Meet Chase Floyd, creator of the channel Chase Floyd Inc. What began as a mission to showcase wildlife slowly shifted into a search for something far more mysterious. An elusive creature he calls the Floyd Squatch. His careful documentation has captivated viewers, but one morning, Chase would come face to face with the very mystery he'd been chasing. On April 25th, 2020, Chase entered the Floyd Fields forest, a place he knew well, yet one that felt increasingly unnerving.
Okay, so today is April 25th, 2020, and I just ran down here with my camcorder because, as you can probably hear behind me, there's some audible howling and whooping noises that are going on, and it's been going on for a couple hours now. Probably around midnight or 1 o'clock last night, I started hearing these loud, it's like a whoop or a howl noises.
He rushed out with his camcorder after hours of strange howls and whooping noises that had begun around midnight and carried on until dawn. He hadn't dared go out in the darkness, but when the sounds returned early that morning, he felt compelled to investigate and capture whatever was making them.
Those are audible, unknown sounds that I'm hearing right now that could really be from some kind of Floyd Squatch type creature. Right now, I'm starting to get lightheaded, so I really don't feel good being down here. So I'm just gonna grab, I really don't feel good right now. So I'm just gonna grab the trail camera and get out of here. It's right there.
As he contemplated his next move, another unsettling sound cut through the damp air, seemingly emanating from the direction of his second trail camera, further heightening his anxiety. Upon reaching the location of his first trail camera, Chase quickly observed that the apple he had set as bait was gone, and he also found something that only added to his fear of not being alone. As he continued deeper into the woods, heading towards the second camera, the strange whooping noises persisted.
Get our trail camera. Looks like I'm gonna fall over. What was that? That was like a growl. Okay. I'm just gonna grab the trail camera and I'm gonna get out of here. I can't. I just heard the growl again.
Confirming that whatever was out there was still active and seemingly close. The prolonged exposure to the unsettling sounds and the desolate atmosphere began to take a toll on Chase. The feeling of not being safe deepened in him, especially recalling his hesitation to come out during the dark of night. These were not the familiar calls of coyotes or other known animals. These were entirely new and deeply disturbing.
I think that was one right there. And now, if you recall, I set the apple trap right in here. It's gone. I mean, we'll look at the footage and see. There's some leftover apple, I think. Well, we'll see on the footage what grabbed that.
The encounter intensified when he heard a distinct knock, followed by yet another unidentifiable sound. With each passing moment, Chase felt himself becoming lightheaded, gripped by the unsettling realization that he might be dealing with a Floyd Squatch type creature. His physical discomfort, a growing headache, compelled him to quickly grab the trail camera and retreat from the area. Near the tree cave, he stumbled upon a truly gruesome discovery, one that sent chills through his body.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of sounds that I had never heard. There it was right there. I've never heard that before. I think I heard a knock that time too. Alright, so I'm just gonna go. That was it again.
It was bone that appeared to be a femur. This bone, he noted, even had white hairs embedded in its end, offering a horrifying clue about its origin.
I'm just gonna get out of here. What is that right there? That is definitely some kind of bone. This is the tree cave that we found the... Wow. I mean, that could be a femur right there. This is the bone of a large male. There's hairs in the end too. If you look really closely, there's some white hairs.
Overwhelmed and feeling increasingly unwell, Chase made the definitive decision to leave, emphasizing that he did not feel safe any longer. As he fled, he reiterated his chilling conclusion. There was something in these woods, something that was not a bear, it's not a coyote, and he had no desire to be present when it finally revealed itself. Back at the safety of his home, Chase reflected on the images the trail cam had captured, which confirmed something chilling.
The picture is definitely humanoid in nature. I mean, it appears to be some kind of grass man-like creature that was photographed by this trail cam. And I don't know what to make of it.
This astonishing discovery, combined with previous evidence such as footprints, hair samples, unexplained gifts, and the unsettling vocalizations, bones, and the femur found that morning, solidified his belief in the existence of something Sasquatch-like in nature. Despite his fear, Chase vowed to return to the woods. this time armed with a 12-gauge shotgun, knowing he couldn't risk going unprotected again. He didn't want to harm anything, but if the creature confronted him, he knew he'd have no choice but to defend himself.
I am gonna have to go back down there and try to find what we're looking for, but I'm not gonna go down there unarmed. Next time, I'm gonna bring this right here, 12-gauge shotgun. I mean, I gotta protect myself, and I don't want to harm anything if I don't have to.
But the question that remains is, what exactly is out there in the woods? Is it an unknown animal, a cryptid, or something far stranger than we realize? And when Chase returns to those woods, will he be the one doing the hunting, or the one being hunted? Venturing into a secluded valley near Los Angeles, the host quickly senses the place is perfect Sasquatch territory, isolated, untouched, and eerily quiet. Seeing it as the ideal spot to investigate, he sets up camp, knowing that whatever waits for him in the darkness will reveal itself only after night falls.
Yes, he saw the Sasquatch on a highway, but if you trek off that highway and down into this valley, this area becomes very wild.
Ho ho! Look at this. I see a lot of animal tracks through here. So this is a place where a Bigfoot would have water, it would have food. It would certainly have protection because I'm probably one of very few people who've ever come all the way down in here.
The investigation leads the team to Honey, a young girl who, along with her father, had a chilling encounter. Honey recounts the moment her father spotted not one, but 4 Sasquatches, while she herself saw one of them.
Her father actually saw 4 of them, but he's not available, so I'm going to meet with Honey and her mother instead.
Boy, this is a long ways from Big Bear Lake.
It is.
This is where it all happened then, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
But let me get this straight. Your father actually is the one who initially saw them, is that right?
Yeah, my dad saw 4, but I saw 1 of the 4. Me, my brother, and my father, we were driving. My dad, he suddenly said, "Look over there," and I look over, and I'm like, whoa.
She describes the creature standing openly in the sunlight against a rock face, providing details about its immense height and width.
Now, where was this thing standing? Where did you see it?
It was standing, like, right there.
Out there in the open in the sunlight and everything, huh?
So when I came here, I remember there were leaves on this tree because I know they were standing in the shade and the shade was pointing this way, and the Bigfoot that I saw was looking this way.
Her calm, unembellished account lends a compelling authenticity to her story, despite her own mixed feelings about whether it was truly a Sasquatch or a person.
Well, if it was standing right here, maybe the head was, yeah, that's probably about 7.5 or 8 feet or so. How big was the body, kind of? Can you tell me that?
It was at least this wide.
About that big?
Yeah.
Okay, so huggable size?
Yes.
Most of them are. Okay. Shoot, I wish you saw the other ones so you could describe those to me as well.
Yes.
I'll tell you that it is a weird place for them to be hanging out. Your dad kind of suggested to you that you saw a Sasquatch.
Furthermore, the team then meets Michael Crawford, who shares a far more unsettling tale of aggressive encounters. He describes 2 separate nights when rocks were hurled at his car after hearing an ominous howl from the mountains.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Michael. I understand why you'd want to come out here. This is breathtaking.
Dude, you're on top of the world.
So where are we right now?
This is where my first encounter happened, and my second encounter happened right below that ridge line down there.
Michael told us about one encounter at the town hall, but now we just found out there were 2 up here and only a mile apart, so that's great. These things were aggressive, and that's what we're looking for. So maybe if we come up here, the same thing will happen to us. So that night, what brought you to the top of this mountain?
On the first night, a single rock struck his vehicle after he mimicked the howl, leaving him terrified.
So we finally got to the spot here, and we kept continuously hearing this howling. So I did a loud scream, and then it stopped. There was no crickets, there was no crunching of the leaves. And then a rock just came and hit the side of my car. And that just scared me to a point where I didn't even know what to do, man. Like flight or flight, you know what I mean?
Right.
The very next night, driven by curiosity, he returned only to find himself surrounded. Rocks were thrown in sequence from multiple directions, left, right, and behind him, creating an unnerving sense of being targeted and warned to leave. Michael's chilling testimony sparks a debate among the team. The damage to Michael's car and the feeling of being actively driven away leave little room for doubt in their minds. This was an aggressive Sasquatch encounter. The journey continues as the team prepares for their final night of investigation.
When that rock was thrown, it was like, all right, you need to leave now or something else is gonna happen.
Is there damage to the car?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the size of the damage?
About a dent that big.
I don't see some pro outfielder throwing rocks at cars at 2 in the morning screaming.
Exactly.
The next night, I don't think there's 3 weirdos sitting out in the woods, clapping their hands or knocking rocks.
I can think of 3 weirdos that regularly go into the woods. Technically 4. So unfortunately, I definitively cannot rule out a person. However unlikely that may be, I just can't.
They meet with Matt, who has been camping near a previous sighting location. He directs them to Deep Creek, a place with more water than any other in the mountains, believing it to be the ultimate spot for their next investigation. What lies waiting in Deep Creek? And will their search for answers uncover something they ever expected? One thing is certain: the deeper they go, the darker the mystery becomes. NVTV is a YouTube channel dedicated to documenting alleged Bigfoot and Dogman encounters, sharing footage and reports that blur the line between folklore and reality. The creator behind the channel remains anonymous, letting the evidence and the fear speak for itself. On December 13, 2025, the channel uploaded a video that left audiences questioning what they were really seeing. The footage begins in chaos, with the man swinging his camera towards something deeply disturbing.
Get in the house! Get in the house!
Drawn by growling in the distance, he follows it deeper into the woods until what he sees appears to be Bigfoot. Faced with the towering, horrifying figure, he stops filming and retreats, leaving the forest in silence. In another video released by the same channel, a similar encounter unfolds. This time, a couple stealthily camping deep in the woods begins to witness something that would stay with them for the rest of her life. While camping alone in the woods, they began to hear disturbing sounds echoing through the darkness. Moments later, what follows was something they were never prepared for. It starts with angry growls, followed by a sudden attack, as if something believed its territory had been violated. Moments later, when they step out to look, she comes across something even more chilling. The forest remained quiet, as if nothing happened. Although the couple made it out unharmed, but the chilling question remains, was it a warning or something else entirely? D-Max UK is a television network and YouTube channel focused on extreme reality programming, documentaries, and real-world encounters. From survival stories to investigations into the unexplained, D-Max presents content that explores the edge between danger and discovery, letting real footage and first-hand accounts speak for themselves. But a video uploaded on January 15th, 2025 stood apart from the rest. It opens deep in a dense forest where a group of campers are settling in. Suddenly, a frightening voice echoes through the trees, and without thinking, they decide to follow it.
Listen. Did you notice how quiet it suddenly got? There's a really strong smell here.
I just say that.
When I came through here earlier to put those sensors in, it didn't smell like this. Ronnie, what was that? Hey! Ronnie, did you hear it?
I just heard that, yeah. I felt like it was coming from over there.
Oh, it was coming from way over there, but it didn't pick up on this. I'll switch the channel. It sounded like a crying baby. Or seriously, like a wailing goat.
That's
it
what
was
I would
really
say,
strange.
like a wailing goat.
An unnatural, foul smell filled the air, and the cry that sounded like a baby pulled them deeper into the forest, until they stumbled upon something truly unsettling.
Hey, Ronnie, let's switch to our red lights. Whatever that crazy sound was, it was definitely in this direction.
That was pretty close to it.
Are you seeing any prints or anything?
I'm not seeing anything.
This place is insane.
Hold on. There's another path over here.
Whoa. The hell's this? Brea?
What's up? A grave.
The discovery of the grave sent chills down to their spine. Later, in the moment of terror, they decided to use the night vision cameras, hoping to find remains of the forest, but that only added to the mystery of the sound that followed.
What was that? That sound, that was insane. Yeah, it sounded like what we heard last night. Almost like a baby crying, or an animal being hurt. Pray for Ronnie.
Go for Ronnie.
Did you hear that? I just heard what sounded like some sort of weird baby cry or animal noise again. It sounded like it was close.
Oh wow. Do you know what direction you're hearing that sound?
It sounded like it was coming north of my location. What the? I mean, that to me sounded like something like a heavy, hard sound.
The video ends in a way that leaves viewers with more questions than answers. What did she really come across? Who or what was behind those sounds? And the chilling noises echoing from deep within the woods. Were they human or something else entirely? Whether it was human, animal, or something else entirely, one thing is clear. The forest that night wasn't empty, and whatever they encountered chose to remain hidden. And with that, we close another chapter of encounters too consistent to ignore, and too disturbing to explain away. The forests remain silent, the witnesses remain shaken, and whatever walks between those trees continues to leave more questions than answers. Whether you believe these stories or not, one truth stands firm. Something is out there, and it's paying attention. Stay safe, Stay alert and remember, the woods never forget.